Are you the same Eric Cantu, who was placed on deferred adjudication for the offense of evading arrest detention with a vehicle on September 9, 2024 for a period of 7 years? Is that you?
Sure.
And in cause number 2024 CR, please turn off your phones. In cause number 2024 CR 1238, are you the same Eric Cantu, who was placed on deferred adjudication for evading arrest detention with a vehicle on September 9, 2024 for a period of 7 years? Is that you?
Yes, sir.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. And cause number 2024 CR 1237, violating condition number 23 on or about the 8th day of October 2024 in Barry County, Texas. The defendant Eric Cantu did then and there operate a motor vehicle in violation of condition number 23.
How do you plead to that, true or not true?
True, Your Honor.
And then in the next cause number, state?
Yes, cause number 2024 CR 1238, violated condition number 26 on or about the 8th day of October 2024 in Barry County, Texas. The defendant Eric Cantu did then and there operate a motor vehicle in violation of condition number 26.
How do you plead to that, true or not true? All right. And each of those cause, and any objections to the waivers?
No, Judge.
And each of those cause numbers, did you understand by pleading true to violation of condition number 23 and violation of condition number 26, the court could find both of those violations true, grant the motion, find you guilty, and sentence you up to 10 years in prison in each cause number and up to a $10,000 fine in each cause number?
Yes, sir.
Knowing that, do you still wish to plead true to violations of condition number 23 and 2024 CR 1237? Do you still wish to plead true to violation of condition number 26 and 2024 CR 1238? In each cause number, the court will find violation of condition number 26 true and violation of condition number 23 true. Is there a proposed agreement?
Not agreed, Your Honor.
All right, state, what are you requesting?
State's requesting deny the motion to amend his conditions to include state ISF with aftercare, Your Honor.
All right, what are you requesting?
Judge, to put the allegation or the true plea within context, he is reported to have met with the probation officer. He drove himself to the probation department. We are proposing the following, that we're asking the court respectfully that he be reinstated back on probation, to deny the MTR. We're asking formally that court add very specific conditions that can address some of the trauma that he's been exposed to, specifically a cognitive behavior course, increase UAs, and weekly visits to his psychologist. In order to provide the court some guidance in its determination, the defense would like to call Dr. Punjabi, provide some mitigating information and a framework in which we can view whatever punishment the court wishes to impose.
All right, Dr. Punjabi, if you'll unmute, please.
Yes, thank you.
Can you raise your right hand for me, please?
Of course.
Solemnly swear, affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Dr. Sunita Punjabi.
All right, and could you spell your name, please, for the court reporter?
Of course. It's Sunita, S as in Sam, U as in umbrella, N as in Nancy, I as in igloo, T as in Tom.
Let me stop you right there. Court reporters don't like when you do the, what each letter signifies.
Oh,
If
okay.
you spell it completely.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Well, I'm from India, so I didn't know if it was confusing, but yeah, my last name is Punjabi, Punjabi.
And if you'll spell your first name.
Sure, Sunita.
Any objections to this witness appearing by Zoom, state? All right, Mr. Cantu, you have a right to have witnesses appear in person. Do you have any objection to this witness appearing by Zoom?
No.
And defense, I'm assuming you have no objection.
No objection, Judge.
All right, defense, you may proceed.
Dr. Punjabi, for the benefit of the record, are you familiar with Eric Cantu?
Yes,
And do you see Eric Cantu on the screen in front of you at this moment?
I do.
And for the benefit of the record, can you describe something that he is wearing?
He's wearing an orange top. It looks like something I would affiliate with jail.
And how long have you known Mr. Cantu?
Gosh, it's been 2 years.
And in what capacity did you come to know him?
I was his therapist. I've been doing neurofeedback and coaching and counseling with him.
And during your time with him, were you able to provide Mr. Cantu with either a diagnosis and or treatment for any sort of post-traumatic stress?
Yes, in fact, I have brain maps that show the most likely medical probability is that he's PTSD and he's traumatized and he's dealing with some other triggers. So yes, I have diagnosed him and I have treated him, and I've had some really great conversations with him as well in therapy.
And what is your official diagnosis in regards to Eric?
He has PTSD without question, but that is causing some other symptoms. So PTSD is not the only, it's a primary diagnosis, but it's not the only symptom.
And what are the major symptoms Eric has experienced as a result of the PTSD?
He can blank out. He's so traumatized right now by trying to be compliant because he wants to normalize his life very much. He wants to be a role model to his child. And so the PTSD is causing him to have almost tunnel vision because he doesn't want to make another mistake. I'm so familiar with PTSD that what he's doing is he's not getting the big picture because he's so obsessed with getting it right. He doesn't want to be in the wrong anymore. He really is trying to rewrite the narrative of his life. So this causes him to hyper focus and make some bad decisions. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, doctor. Now, in your discussions and in treatment of Eric, can you share with us what was the source for the creation of the PTSD, as far as you know and your understanding?
He was an innocent person just living his life, and all of a sudden, this whole thing happened. And it's not just the initial incident of the shooting, it is what happened consecutively, the media getting involved. And then, there's a lot of influences that kept re-triggering him. And some of that had to do with our own authorities, but his friends as well, the community as well. So I really wanted him to just be pulled out of San Antonio. But anyway, that didn't happen.
And is it your understanding that the shooting took place when Eric was sitting in a car eating a meal when he was shot by a police officer? Is that your
Yes. So yes, what PTSD is when bombs explode
Excuse me,
around
just
you.
stop for a moment. Yes,
Jackson narrative,
sustained.
counsel.
Doctor, what is your understanding as to specifically the creation of the post-traumatic circumstance? What circumstance created the
Well,
post-traumatic?
Yeah, PTSD, what it is the system is not ready to deal with the trauma and it is suddenly traumatized. And then it continues to be traumatized. And that is exactly what happened. The police is an authority figure for him. His belief in the system was questioned, was totally ripped apart, continues to happen. So PTSD is an initial attack. The brain goes into hyperdrive and doesn't come down. So if you can imagine a car that's put into second gear, but he never got the chance to go back into normal gear because things kept going, including the media. So it's not anyone's fault per se that he was re-traumatized. The initial issue though, and I even reviewed the video this morning from the initial traumatization, the initial event, that was not his fault. Now, though, he is traumatized, he is PTSD, and he's continuing to make decisions in that state of mind.
Now, Mr. Cantu has pled true to violating his condition of probation, specifically driving his car to the probation department to meet with his probation officer. Is that your understanding of the violation, correct?
Yes, sir, I do understand that.
Now, if this probation circumstance was not an issue, how, as a clinician, how would you treat Mr. Cantu? What would your treatment look like?
If you think about it, and I thought about this, how would someone violate his probation, knowing fair well that he was not supposed to drive because he was obsessed with being compliant. He wanted to show up and he didn't think about his whole circumstance because of the PTSD. So when he made the decision to drive, he was not in his right state of mind. I am diagnosed with PTSD. I was in an abusive situation as a child. So what happens is we blank out and the world just becomes, I just got to be compliant. I just got to do right. I can't make another mistake. And in that obsession, there's rushing thoughts in PTSD. He can't be clear-minded. So, I mean, I want him to drive. And I don't want you to think that he's not able to drive. But I would like you to consider what's going on with PTSD. And this is not the Eric I know.
Thank you, Dr. Punjabi. I've asked you a lot of questions. Thank you very much for your time. Is there anything that I did not ask you, do you think the court should know in terms of deciding the outcome of Eric's probation? Or how he should spend the next either a few months or next few years?
I think you've asked me the questions that you need to know. I would like to reiterate that he will become the surroundings that he is, because right now he's looking for hope. The brain does this. The brain searches for the meaning of the events that have happened to him. Right now he's figuring out what that means. So I'm very concerned that if he's around people that could influence that meaning in the wrong direction, he is almost like a child looking for why he's here and why this happened to him. What did I do wrong are the questions that he keeps asking. So I just ask of you that you consider where you're placing him and the environment you're placing him in.
Thank you, Dr. Punjabi. The prosecutor may have some questions for you. Thank you for your time. I'll pass Dr. Punjabi as a witness.
State.
Thank you, yes. Doctor, so my understanding is you're saying that he would benefit from structure. Is that correct?
Most definitely, yes.
And structure of a kind where he has counseling and he's under doctor's care. Is that correct?
Yes, but the environment that this is done in, the colleagues, the people he identifies with are very, very important. I have worked in rehabilitation facilities before, and that's why.
Yes, thank you. But the fact is, you have had him under your care for over 2 years now. Is that correct?
I have not been able to personally talk to him in many, many months because of the limitation of his driving. He couldn't get here. So I have not personally talked to him in quite a while. I don't remember the last time, the date. I can check the date that I talked to him last.
Well, we'll take several months, but I'm sorry, I didn't realize you're not in San Antonio. Where are you?
I'm in San Antonio.
Oh, so are you in an office building?
Yes, I'm in an office building.
Here in San Antonio, where at? Located where at in San Antonio? So I guess it could be said that a bus system actually has a bus system out there or no?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the bus systems. There is no bus system, is what I've been told.
Okay, so you don't know if there's a bus system. What about, does Uber go there, or does, say, Lyft, or any type of taxi service? Would it be able to?
Yes, and Eric
Thank
has.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so the fact is that you're in San Antonio. He hasn't gone to you to get medical help. You've said that he needs medical help. He's had an opportunity because he has you in San Antonio. Is that correct?
Yes, he
Okay.
does have that opportunity.
And so for 2 years, you've talked to him throughout that time, maybe not every day, but you have. And you do realize that he is on probation for evading arrest in a vehicle. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And not only just one evading arrest in a vehicle, but 2 evading arrests in a vehicle. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And you're aware that also did you watch the body cams or the dash cams from those evadings?
No, I have not seen those, but he has called me things
like
that are happening.
So the fact is you haven't reviewed those cases that he's on probation for. Are you aware that in one of those evadings, he actually ran into an innocent individual in their vehicle and caused damage, if not put them in mortal danger of causing an accident on the highway. Are you aware of that?
I am aware of that.
Okay.
And
so
ma'am, when I can speak, I'll tell you what I think about it.
that's right. I mean, defense counsel will be able to ask you some questions. Mr. Ramos will ask you some questions if you'd like to expand on that. But you are stating that he would benefit from structure.
Yes,
And you've had an opportunity for over 2 years to give him that structure, which has not been done.
he's done very well until the recent events.
He's done very well in the 2 years that you've talked to him, and he violated the law at least twice for evading arrest in a vehicle. Is that right?
When he was seeing me regularly and when he was seeing a counselor regularly and getting treatments regularly, there were no violations. The violations started after.
These evadings that have been.
The defense is going to object. We're going to ask the state to allow the witness to finish her answer before we ask another question.
All right, state if you'll re-ask your question.
Right. And I'm moving on here. The fact is that the evadings happened well over a year ago. So he was under your care during the time of these evadings. You're aware of that,
No,
right?
he was not seeing me over a year ago. I was talking to him, I was writing letters for him, but he did not see me. He stopped seeing me about a year into the entire thing, on a regular basis. Now, I did have a counselor that was working with him, Mary Contreras, and she would talk to him via telephone, but otherwise he was not seeing me and he was not getting the treatment that he needs. And that's because he couldn't drive. He wasn't allowed to drive. So yes, there's a Uber and there's all those things, but when you have a PTSD diagnosis, you're not thinking clearly. You can't make those kinds of executive
I'm
decisions.
going to object to her narrative.
Sustained.
Thank you. So, doctor, what I'm asking you is you're saying that one, he needs structure, two, that he needs to drive. Are you telling the court that this individual right here, standing in the orange, needs to drive?
I am not saying he needs to drive.
So
I'm not.
how's he going to get to the doctor's office if he can't drive?
He
Which
will
you're
have figured out another way, but see, when you have PTSD, you don't think about the Uber, you don't think about calling your parents. He is so obsessed with not making another mistake. I know this young man. He really wants to live his life on the up and up. And he never blamed, if he was
Your Honor,
really,
I'm just going to object to narrative.
he
Sustained.
never blamed.
The objection has been sustained.
And doctor, thank you very much for acknowledging the fact that this individual, out of all the individuals in the world, wants to do better. I think we all can say we want to do better, but it's the question of whether we do better. And
But
so
he has a
in
diagnosis.
this case, he has not done better. He is driving and he lied to probation that he
And
was
that
driving.
is the fault of our judicial system. He is not doing better because he has not been given the opportunity. He continues to be set up to be triggered. I'm sorry, and that's what I've seen. He
Okay,
called
that's
me one
fine.
time when he
Sorry.
was being pulled over by a police officer.
So wait, are you stating to the court that he called you when he was being pulled over by a police officer during one of the evadings?
He tried to get help because he continued to be pulled over. Every time the police officers saw his car, I could see that it was a whole, I'm sorry.
Well, ma'am, I'm sorry. You just stated on the record that he called you
It was
during,
over, yes, it was a year and a half ago.
so when he was pulled over for an evading in the arrest.
No, he wasn't evading. He was just pulled over. I don't know why he was pulled over, but he wasn't evading. He hadn't broken a law. From what I understood and what I could hear, it was that his car was just identified and they pulled him over for some, I don't know what it was, but it was
you-
nothing. He was breaking a law.
You have no clue
I
what
could
was.
hear, and I could, no, but I could hear the police officer telling him it was some kind of excuse. And this continued, and that's the issue.
So
he
I'm
keep-
sorry, objection again to narrative, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Doctor, so you're stating that it's the police officer's fault. Any police officer that pulls this individual over for one, speeding, because one of his evadings arrests was speeding. You realize that? Is that
Sir,
correct?
I don't know if you know what
Okay,
PTSD
is that
is.
right?
I understand you're not clinically trained, but PTSD means that he will be re-triggered. And that's why he needs to be pulled out into rehabilitation that doesn't involve other types of criminals, though. He's young, he's vulnerable. When this originally happened, he was 17 and a half years old. He's been locked in that age and that mindset.
Your Honor, I'm
That's
just
when he was
gonna narrative.
traumatized. So I understand you have no clinical background, but if
Sustained. The
Good.
objection has been sustained.
Doctor, I appreciate your point of view there. But yet again, you did state on the record here that he would benefit from a structured environment with counseling and also other individuals that would care for him, because this individual is vulnerable to actually violate the law yet again. Is that correct?
yes, but
Thank you. No further
his
questions.
brain is, okay, his brain is seeking meaning.
Dr. Punjabi, thank you very much for your time. Eric and I are grateful for your time and your testimony. We have no further questions for you. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
thank you. Any other witnesses?
No, ma'am. Just argument whenever the court's ready.
All right, any objection to the court reviewing the court summary?
No, no objection, Judge.
All right, so I'm looking at the justification for probation's recommendation. In the justification, it says probationer lied to CSO and failed to comply with his conditions the same day as stating that he understood them. So the court ordered him not to drive. I was very clear that he was not to drive. And I told him he can use Uber, he can use Via, but he's not allowed to drive. According to this, it says CSO. See, they say that he reported on October 8th. He was read his conditions, given a copy, stated he understood those. And probationer reported he had been working for DoorDash, and CSO told him that he will need to find alternate employment since he cannot drive. At the end of the report, CSO asked how the probationer got to report, and probationer said that he got a ride and that he would be calling for a Lyft or Uber to pick him up. They followed him and waited, and he got into a vehicle and drove off. So I ordered that he was not to drive.
Yes, Judge.
And I know that probation is asking for ISF. I have somebody with 2 evadings. One of them caused an accident. I'm wondering why he should not be revoked, because he's not obeying the court's conditions. I understand mental health. I understand PTSD, but what, does everyone who has PTSD, they don't have to follow the rules of probation? It is very clear that I told him he was not allowed to drive. He said he understood he was not allowed to drive. So then what I have from this report, that court summary that no one objected to the court reviewing, is that it appears that he knew that he was not supposed to drive because he was dishonest with probation when probation asked him whether or not he had driven there. And he was dishonest after probation says, "Oh, what's your employment?" And he says DoorDash. Again, you can't do DoorDash unless you're doing it by Via or doing an Uber or Lyft. So he knew that he was being dishonest. He knew, even though he had PTSD, he knew that what he was doing was violating the court's orders because he was dishonest about it. So why should he go to prison? That's my question. I know the state is following the recommendations of probation that's saying local ISF for 90 to 120 days. But the court is wondering why he shouldn't be going to prison. And what I can tell both parties is he is going to be in custody some kind of way after this hearing. I've heard all the evidence. Either he's going to ISF or either he's going to prison. And right now I want to know why I shouldn't send him to prison, because he's not following the court's rules. And I was very adamant. It is rare for me to tell people on probation they can't drive, but I was very adamant that he wasn't to drive because he has 2 evading arrests with a vehicle, and one of them involved a serious accident. So why shouldn't he be going to prison?
Judge, I can offer this. I can offer, to be clear, with somebody who has PTSD, they should follow the rules of probation. They should follow conditions. We don't disagree with that at all, Judge, to be very clear. I can offer that, at least from our perspective, my perspective, humbly, that the shooting has caused PTSD. He was sitting in his car. He was shot by police officers. It has affected his judgment and certain portions of his decision-making ability in every aspect.
I understand that, but my question is, at what point and I understand mental health. I understand PTSD. But at what point are we going to say people need to follow the rules?
And that's a fair question, Judge. And I can offer this. This county has made tremendous strides in dealing with PTSD, whether it's in veterans court, in individuals that have experienced sexual trauma through the prostitution specialty court, in individuals that have experienced trauma at the juvenile setting. This county has made tremendous strides. And ordinarily somebody, and I struggle out loud saying this because I don't want to equate Eric to a veteran. I don't necessarily want to
No, I'm
make
fine
that,
with you. I mean, PTSD, I understand.
but we have created structures for people that, even in the New York Times this morning, there was county court 13 made the New York Times this morning, talking about the trauma-informed specialty court that it's created and how it's doing
Okay,
well.
but why is he not following my orders? And I will tell you, I tell everyone who's on probation in this court, if you ever need anything, you can come back to this court. You can talk to your probation officer. If you feel as though they're not addressing it, you can come back to this court. So why isn't he following my orders?
And Judge, respectfully, I can't address that because I've never experienced the sort of trauma that he's experienced. I've never been shot while I sat in my car. I'm a rule follower. I would follow the rules, this court's rules. I'll follow any judge's rule. But I haven't been shot, and I don't know what it feels like to have my decision-making ability affected. I don't know what it feels like if a stranger shoots me. I don't know if it's going to be that easy for me to get an Uber in a stranger's car. I don't know if it's going to be that easy for me to get on a bus. I don't know. And I'm saying this in front of everybody. I don't know, but I can tell you that the trauma has affected his life. He's been on probation for 47 days before this took place. He's trying to figure this out. He's 19 years old, trying to figure out the probation system and all these rules he has to follow. Some job training programs take longer than the amount of time it took for him to get the MTR. What I'm trying to communicate to the court is, we're asking court, it's going to take some time for him to figure it out given this trauma. And we're asking for this to be mitigating, to ask the court to be mindful that what he experienced is mitigating. And at the end of the day, when he's fleeing on these evadings, he's trying to get away from the people that shot him. I mean, that's
Right, so here's the thing. I understand your argument, counsel, but he's already on probation for this. So why he was fleeing for them, that's not where we're at. I'm trying to figure out why I should continue him. He obviously knows to report because he was reporting. He obviously knows he has to get employment, though he was getting employment at DoorDash. He obviously know he was doing wrong. I understand the doctor's testimony, but he knew what he was doing was wrong, because if he didn't, because she said that he's trying to do everything right, he just doesn't want to mess up. He's being dishonest. He knows he's not supposed to drive.
I can offer this, Judge. I can
Yes.
offer, if the court in its understanding of trauma can offer a little bit more of a tailor-made proposal, that he undergo outpatient cognitive treatment, that he report to weekly UAs. He did test negative.
I can tell you right now, I'm not doing outpatient treatment. Here's the thing, where we're at is I'm trying to understand why I shouldn't send him to prison. Either he's going to ISF cognitive or either he's going to prison. Right now, I'm trying to understand, and I understand the PTSD, but I'm reading the report from the court summary. He knew he wasn't supposed to drive. And her thing is that he wants to get everything right. Part of getting everything right is following the court's rules. And my main rule on this was no driving until further notice. And if he wanted to drive, all he had to do was contact his probation officer and say, you know what? I got a job with DoorDash. The judge said I can't drive. I would like to approach the judge about that. He could approach me. I would have made a ruling on whether he could drive or not. But instead, what he did, he's doing DoorDash, and then he goes into probation driving when he knows he's not supposed to be driving. And then when they asked him how he got to probation, he's dishonest and he says, somebody dropped me off and I'm going to call an Uber or Lyft. And then he goes and gets in his vehicle and drives away. So I understand PTSD. I understand mitigating factors, but part of my job, I view, is to protect the community. He was given deferred adjudications on 2 evading arrest with detention of a vehicle. I understand he's been shot before. His previous counsel said he's been shot before. I understand he was shot by the police. His previous counsel said that. So I set conditions, taking that into consideration, and allowed him to live his life on probation, but without driving. And I know I brought up to him that he could take the via Uber, Lyft. Instead, he's being 100% dishonest with probation. Now, probation is recommending ISF. They're not recommending revocation. So again, we're back to the point. Why shouldn't I revoke him? Because my main rule was no driving. And he violated that, and he was dishonest about it. And that's more than just PTSD. That's knowing you were not supposed to do something, but doing it anyway and thinking you would not get caught. And if there's this fear of police pulling him over, then why is he driving when I told him not to?
I can only offer, Judge, that the PTSD did affect his decision-making ability, and it did affect his judgment, and it got him here today. And I can only offer, Judge, that it sounds like the court, it does sound like outpatient is not an option for the court, and
No.
we understand that at this moment in time. So in the alternative, Judge, I'm asking for anything less than revocation. Presuming that the court allows him to go to the inpatient or to the ISF facility, and after the 90 or 120 days, he can resume his treatment with his psychologist. The court can tailor conditions that require him to attend. Dr. Punjabi said something that was very significant. She said that he was receiving the treatment. This probably wouldn't have happened. He would have had the structure. If we can structure a probation that makes him report every so often.
All right. And so the reason why he wasn't receiving treatment with her is because he didn't want to receive treatment with her. I have never stopped anyone from receiving treatment from wherever they want to receive treatment from. So that's because of him. And he didn't want to see her for whatever reason. He didn't want to make an appointment with her. I've never stopped anyone from receiving mental health treatment. I've never stopped anyone from receiving drug treatment. He didn't want to, but now he does, I guess.
All I can offer, Judge, is to give Eric a second opportunity. And I think the things that have happened to him are mitigating. And for that, we're asking for an additional opportunity for him to be either sent to ISF, anything short of revoked. And I hesitate to say out loud, but there are these mitigating factors that I think I am mindful that the court is concerned about community safety. I am very mindful of that, and I can appreciate that very much so. But there's some mitigating arguments that, to some degree, he was doing the best that he could. He showed up to probation. He showed up to report.
In a vehicle, driving.
Yes, Judge. But he was trying to do the best he could. And I think that's worth something in this circumstance. The alternative is not to report, which we see happen a lot. He took steps to report.
All he had to do was pick up the phone, call probation. I don't have a ride today. I
don't know if that.
He knows he's not supposed to be driving. PTSD, doesn't have PTSD, has PTSD. He knows he's not supposed to be driving, just like he knew he was supposed to report. That's why he reported. PTSD does not mean that you don't know your obligations.
I don't know, Judge, if that's.
No, that's true. I've studied a lot. PTSD doesn't mean that you don't know you're supposed to report. Obviously, he knew that. He reported. It appears that he's just doing what he wants to do on probation. He wants to see his therapist or not. He doesn't go see his therapist. He doesn't tell probation, I would like to see my therapist. He wants to report. He reports. He wants to drive. He drives. And according to this court summary, this is just the first time they caught him driving. I don't know how long he's been driving, but if he's been working for DoorDash, obviously that involves him driving. And I don't know who allowed him with this vehicle. Is this his vehicle, this black vehicle, or is it his father?
My understanding it's not his. I believe it's a family member, so maybe it's his father's. I'm not entirely sure, Judge.
All right, I think it's his father's. His father came in to testify with regards to a bond issue, I believe.
Yes, a bond sentence.
Okay, yes. And it's his vehicle. I don't know why his family members are giving him vehicles when they know he's not to be driving. All right, State, what are you requesting?
Judge, the state, just like in many other type of probationers that have violated within a short period of time, we're requesting and going along with the recommendation of It said local ISF. The state was asking for state ISF. But the probation department has asked for local ISF. And Your Honor, just in the narrative, it says that this vehicle was listed on his personal data sheet. So it's something that he's aware that that was his vehicle. And so the state's position is that if lack of revocation, definitely a state or local ISF with aftercare.
Probation, I'm sorry.
And a no driving for the duration of his probation, Your Honor.
Probation? What is the probation's recommendation?
Judge, as listed on the court summary, amend conditions for local ISF for 90 to 120 days, followed by intensive supervision aftercare, hold into custody until transfer.
All right, anything else, counsel?
No, Judge. Thank you for listening to what we have to say.
All right. All right, the court will follow the recommendations of probation, noting that he hasn't been on probation for a long length of time and notating his age. The court will deny the motion and each cause number. I'm going to alter amend conditions to include local ISF. There's to be ISF aftercare. He's to remain in custody until transfer. There's to be no driving for the duration of his probation. All right.
Can I say?
Oh, what do you want to, no, what do you want to say?
I was gonna say, Your Honor and the members of this court, I apologize for the inconveniences that
No, it's not inconvenient, but here's the thing.
problems that caused.
Let me just explain something to you. In this court, when you're on probation, people will always say it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. That's not the way it works on probation. On probation, it's better to ask for permission than forgiveness after the fact. You understand? And you need to internalize and realize what you did wrong. You knew you are not supposed to drive. And the reason why you're not allowed to drive is because you have two evadings. And in one of them, you ran into another vehicle. Do you understand?
Yes.
So that car that you have, the black car, you need to give it to a relative or someone else to remove temptation from your life. Do you understand? We can go off the record. Your range of punishment for each of these cause numbers is 10 years in the prison if you are revoked with a $10,000 fine. Do you understand? Do you understand you're not allowed to drive? Period. Do you understand? Is there anything else?
No, Judge.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.